We started off in the project to think about responsibility sharing and how responsibility sharing relates to solidarity. We approached the topic from a theoretical point at the beginning, looking at the literature, what is already there, engaged then with a number of stakeholders in bilateral interviews. And then in a final stage we looked in a scenario workshop where we invited different stakeholders from different backgrounds, again from academia, from public administrations, but also from civil society and agencies, to see how different possible scenarios of a common European asylum system, how they would reflect with responsibility sharing, whether one or the other system would be more crisis resilient and would offer probably more solutions to the issues, challenges that we have within the common European asylum system. The European Union is in the common European asylum system brought together the main stakeholders more closely. I think most dominantly is here, of course, the work of EASO that provides a platform of exchange and also engaging with experts from countries with their support teams. That is happening a lot. Of course, countries at the external borders have quite a different understanding of responsibility sharing than countries that are surrounded by other EU countries. On the other side, we realized, especially in this workshop, where we tried to also ask our participants to think from other perspectives, that it was quite difficult for countries that, let's say, are more in the west part of Europe, to understand also the opinion of a border country like Greece or Italy, and I think this was also quite interesting for our stakeholders and for us also. It is clear for everyone that there is not really an alternative to solidarity and to show of responsibility sharing. The ways to that are perceived very, very differently. But what would be the alternative? There is not really an alternative unless we want that some countries move on and some are left behind then. And also this scenario we looked at, what would it mean that at the moment we speak about this disembarkation coalition of the willing that will help together to solve the disembarkation of migrants that cross the Mediterranean. And you would come quite soon to a very complex system that would even less survive a crisis like we had in 2015, or crisis, the arrival of a lot of people, because it gets even more complex. There is one system of the coalition of the willing, another system of those that are somehow close within the EU still, but it makes it more and more complex. But in fact, we are not at the point that we say that people arrive in the European Union. We still are at the point that people arrive in a country. And responsibility sharing is not only something that is at EU level, but it's actually at global level discussed, but also at national level and partly also at regional level. We have now 20 years since the idea of a common European asylum system was developed in Tampere. And since then, the composition of the European Union changed drastically. At that time, there were 15 countries that developed, let's say, this idea. And now we are 27, 28. This joint idea has to be refound, actually. That you need to know where you go to in order to think about the means, about responsibility sharing. What does it mean? Do we have a common European asylum system where there's one central agency? Then responsibility sharing looks very different to when we have a system like now with different national asylum systems. One example is that we looked a bit closer was that in a time when in Austria the reception facilities were very scarce, there was an agreement with the neighboring country, Slovakia, that had less asylum applications, but they had a facility quite across the border from Austria. And they offered this facility for people where Austria was responsible for, but they were hosted in the neighboring reception facility. I think it just shows that such synergies can be used, yeah? And it's not only a case between Austria and Slovakia, and also from other countries where the one country has a lack of reception capacities, where just in a neighboring country there would be some. we tried a lot to find more of these examples, but yeah, this was probably a bit surprising that we did not come up with more of these small grassroots examples. We can think broad and far. We can think of one common European asylum system implemented by one EU agency, or we think we remain like we are. We just have to decide this. As I said before, I think it is not so contested that responsibility sharing is necessary, and states are also willing to contribute. But because of, yes, political reasons, some would rather employ in not receiving asylum seekers, but show solidarity in other ways. Technical assistance, staff for training, but other, let's say, soft examples of responsibility sharing.